A man that is blessed in honor and knoweth it not is like the beast that perishes. Yeah. Because you didn't know the value of the thing I have given to you. People have lost their God-given husband, their God-given wife in their very eyes, because when they ought to have been awake, they were sleeping over it, not knowing that there are enemies everywhere that does not like that home, that does not like you married and stay married, that does not like you enter into that relationship. Yours is to go about, talk and tell people how nice and how juicy the relationship is without you holding it in a place of prayer. There are tasks of poverty sown into many lives because they slept when they ought to have been awake. There are tasks of perpetual singlehood sown into so many lives. That's why regardless of their beauty, regardless of their height, regardless of their education, regardless of their character, their manners, their culture, regardless of all these, they are still single. An enemy has done these. Tasks of singlehood was sown into their blissful relationship that cannot metamorphosize from relationship to marriage. You wonder why. There are a lot who today are stagnated in life. There are people who today they are experiencing all form of setbacks and demotion. Tasks of setbacks, tasks of demotion sown into their lives. Why? They slept when they ought to have been awake to guide this. Tasks of financial lack, tasks of joblessness, tasks of carryover of anything. Carryover. A man's soul delivered and handed over to men. Men slept. While men slept, the enemy came in and sowed tasks. So when men sleep over destinies, the destinies are punctured. When men sleep over what they ought to have been awake to guide, they lose it in sleep. And they said unto Jesus, let's go and uproot the task immediately. He said, leave it. Let that tower of poverty choke you, since you never valued what you had. Let that tower of pain and sorrow choke that marriage. You are seeing your husband going out of proportion, rather than you going on your knee to summon him in spirit and redirect him in the spirit realm. You want to physically confront him. Whereas every day he goes to work, there are demons in form of human beings garnished from the marine world, in form of secretaries, flaunting their demonic body around him. These are powers wearing a suit, and you're using your carnal sense to fight it. Tasks. You better be awake to take over the day from the night. You know, while we're still going through that, the book of 2 Kings chapter 3, from the 16th verse to verse 21, came surfacing in my mind, where we saw another awful, tragic incident that was quite pathetic, very, very pathetic. You know, two women gave birth to children almost about the same time, you know, and they were roommates lying opposite each other. As they were giving their children suck, their babies suck at night, one suddenly slept off and slept over the baby. She was breastfeeding the child, and suddenly she slept off, not just dozed, slept off. Emphasis, slept off. Carrying a life, slept off. Carrying a destiny, slept off. And while she slept off, her breast covered the nostril of this little infant. And the infant was gasping for breath, was struggling because the child couldn't breathe anymore. While that was happening, this woman was still asleep. Child of God, who paid you to sleep? I mean, this sleep, who had ever given you a trophy? I mean to say, okay, you were the best sleeper of the year. Take, like the scripture says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 10. Said, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of hand, so shall poverty wrap you like a duvet, wrap you like a blanket. A little, they're always very little, like the little foxes that spoils the vine. She slept over a precious life that she was carrying. Even when the life was kicking and trying to struggle to survive, she was fast asleep. Have you not slept over your marriage? That's why you're going about now crying when you ought to have been awake. You've slept over your job. Look at those that were employed in your very eyes. They have outwitted you. They have passed you. They were answerable to you once upon a time as boss, but today you're answerable to them. You've slept over your job. That's why you don't have one anymore. You've slept over your business, watching it in your very eyes, crumbling. You have eaten until you've entered into your capital. That very soon you might be out of business. And there are people who are already out of business, who were doing so well. Why? They slept over. The business was crying, they were sleeping. She slept over the baby. And while that happened, suddenly the baby couldn't breathe again, and then she snapped. The baby gave up. Just like your marriage gave up. Just like your relationship gave up. Just like your job gave up. Just like your businesses gave up. Just like your finances gave up. That today you are handicapped. I was still pondering over that as it was not a good experience, when suddenly she woke up at midnight and then turned around, saw her colleague sleeping as well, breastfeeding her own baby. She went straight, extracted that life. She removed the life while the other was sleeping. She removed that marriage while she was sleeping. She removed that relationship while she was sleeping. She removed that financial breakthrough, that contract while she was sleeping. That others submitted their proposals from the shrine. You couldn't submit your own from your knees, from your bed chamber where you have your altar. Man of the night rules the day. She removed life. That was the one that hurt me more. And this woman was still asleep. In fact, she adjusted. You know, there are some of us that are gifted sleepers, that they will carry you up, remove the mattress, drop you on the bed floor. You will accelerate the gear of the sleep, and then kept the dead baby by her bosom, just by her breast. How can you fathom that? And she was still asleep. Child of God, a man sowed, men slept. While men slept, the enemy came in and sowed tares. So when men sleep, there are tares that are sown. But here, when women sleep, destinies are killed. Marriages are killed. Businesses are killed. You will watch your children with your own very eyes, behaving as if they didn't come from your roots. Your sons, your daughters become drug addicts, becomes whores on the streets. Why? You slept when you ought to have been awake. When women sleep, destinies are swamped. Destinies are killed. As I begin to wrap up, I want you to understand it. Proverbs 14 and verse 1 says, every wise woman builds her home, but the fools scatter it with their hands. You don't use your hand to build. You use your knees to build. Because one of the major materials you need in building are your knees. Midnight prayers. after the conjugal, you go on your knees and begin to build a home